I believe we are currently experiencing one of the greatest opportunities of our lifetimes, and it's not for the reasons that you might think. So let's talk about it. There is a version of you right now that quite possibly is feeling a little bit scared. Whether it's because AI is going to take over your job, or because every second post on LinkedIn is announcing a layoff, or because the economy is a mess. Insert whatever possible reason you can for why you might be feeling a bit of uncertainty, fear, and doubt. And then there is this other version, the one that I'm choosing to live by, which is where I am choosing to believe that right now is the greatest opportunity of my lifetime. Before we go any further, hello, I'm Anika. I have been working in tech for, close to 15 years at this point, and I'm starting to quietly future-proof my career. Not because I'm scared, not because I think AI is coming to replace me, not because I'm choosing to believe all the headlines or anything like that, but because I truly believe that when there is so much uncertainty, fear, and doubt, the only thing you can do is what you can control. And what I can control is my mindset towards everything that we are currently experiencing. So I'm choosing to believe the situation that we are all experiencing right now is the greatest opportunity that could come my way, that everything will work out better than I could have imagined. And it's because I have this attitude, I know that there is no other choice but for me to be successful with future-proofing my career. So in this video, I'm going to talk you through exactly how I'm doing this, both from a mindset perspective, but also from a practical perspective. Let's get into it. Now, there's one main thing I want you to take from this video. Most career advice out there is telling us to think about the next step. What should we become? What pivot should you make? What role or industry should you consider going into? Should I learn AI? Should I start a business? Should I switch industries, etc.? But that question is paralyzing to a lot of people because we don't know what the world is going to look like in 5 years' time. But I believe the question we should be asking is, how do I build enough optionality so that whatever future shows up, I am ready for it? And if you step back to think about it, that's really the whole game. We are not here trying to predict the future. We are here to position ourselves to be in the best possible scenario we can be, whether that's from a work and career perspective or it's just from a general life perspective. It's all about your positioning, your ability to be adaptable, and your ability to step into an opportunity that comes your way. So how do you actually position yourself in the right way? That's what I'm going to spend the rest of this video talking about. But overall, I would say, think about making yourself as well-rounded as you possibly can. We're going to go through a bit of a framework that I have come up with, kind of like a pyramid. It's your foundation, your inputs, and then your outputs. Let's spend the rest of this video going through each of these layers. Okay, now let's start with the foundation layer, because if you don't get this right, then nothing else is going to compound. Now, when I talk about your mindset, it's really going back to what I said at the start of this video. What is it that you are choosing to believe about the current set of events or circumstances or factors that you are experiencing? Because the version of events that you choose to believe is what is going to play out. So I'm choosing to believe that right now is the greatest opportunity that I will ever have, both in my career and in my life. Because think about it. When else do you have the chance to think about resetting your career? When else will I have the forcing function behind me to actually act upon the things I've wanted to do for so long? All the ideas that I've been sitting on. Because yes, I feel a sense of threat and uncertainty and doubt when it comes to my career in tech, but I'm letting that uncertainty fuel what else it is that I could do that could turn into something incredible. When else do I get a chance to just think about all of the things that I could possibly do and actually act on them without being fearful? Also, thinking like this leaves me with no choice but to have utter self-belief and confidence that I can successfully future-proof my career, that I can leverage this opportunity that I believe currently exists for us, and that I can come out the other end is so much better off than I could have ever imagined. Whatever vision or desires that I was working towards in my tech career could not even come close to what my career and my life could become if I tap into the opportunity that we are being given. And by the way, when I'm talking about opportunity, don't be mistaken for me talking about AI specifically, because yes, you can absolutely go and use AI to its full potential and make that your bet. That's not something I'm choosing to do. For me, looking at this as an opportunity is really taking a step back, assessing my skills, my experiences, my curiosities, things that I'm actually interested in, things that I've already started, like my YouTube channel on the side, and seeing what I can do to progress this further. So I'm basically looking at opportunity as a holistic thing, not just the AI related opportunity. So I just wanted to make that caveat. Another reason to look at this as an opportunity is because when the path you have been working towards for so long, i.e. like my tech career, is no longer certain, or maybe is changing in a way that I don't agree with or I don't align with, what other choice do I have but to figure out what else it is that I should do next? And not specifically what I should do, but how do I want to spend my life? What does a meaningful and purposeful career look like? What are all the different ways in which I could make money, but also enjoy myself, but also things that I'm really good at? Like, if you just step back and think about the bigger picture in this way, that's what I'm referring to as the foundational mindset layer. Now, it's really easy to fall into the trap of just thinking about what to do next. So start researching the business, start creating content, start looking at career pivots. Whatever side hustle or new skill that you want to do, yes, you should absolutely explore it, but you need to make sure that it's being backed by and fueled by opportunity, a positive mindset, self-belief, confidence, not just the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So if you have recently been living in a place of the fear, the uncertainty, the doubt, not sure what's next, feeling stuck, feeling nervous, the first thing you should do is decide what you want your mindset and your approach to be going forward. It doesn't have to be the same as mine. I'm just sharing it as an example. Think about what you want that to be and hold that mindset very close to your chest while you start making the practical moves, like the side hustle, researching the business opportunity, and making those practical moves. Now, if you don't know where to start with mindset, I do have some homework for you. I want you to spend some time this week auditing what information and media you are consuming. What are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to? Who are you listening to? Because if 80% of what you're consuming is about that doom and that fear and that gloom, then you're literally training yourself to also think that way and not believe that this could be a good thing. So I want you to swap that for people who are thinking more like myself. Swap it for people who are building things, people who are pivoting their careers, people who are documenting being in the messy middle and not sure about what they're going to do next, but they're just exploring. People who are actually making moves and doing things right now rather than just sitting in the doom and gloom, because your mindset is a downstream of everything you consume. So if you've been feeling a little bit down about everything, you might not even realize why it is you're feeling that way. So start with what you're consuming this week. Okay, layer 2 is my favorite by far. This is what I call the inputs, and this is really where we start talking about diversification. You cannot talk about future-proofing your career without talking about diversification, but I'm going to expand the concept of diversification more than you might have already been thinking about it. Now, when a lot of people think about diversification, they're going to think about diversifying income streams, or they might think about spreading themselves really thin and trying to do it all. And that's definitely not what I mean by diversification. What I do mean is that you should build a bunch of compounding assets at the same time so that they can feed each other. So your network feeds your income. Your skills feed your network. Your knowledge feeds your skills. It's not hedging your bets. It's like a flywheel of sorts. So there are 6 things that I'm actively diversifying right now. Let's go through each of them. First and foremost, the most obvious one is income. I'm not going to talk about this too much because you know what I mean, but I think the greatest thing to take away is that if you only have a single income stream in 2026, you're quite literally putting yourself in the riskiest financial position that you possibly could. Now, I'm not saying you need to go away and build out a dozen income streams, just 2 or 3, as long as you've got the momentum to start thinking about money coming in, even in small drips from other places, is going to be a great start. For me personally, I've got my full-time job. I make some money from YouTube. I do some product coaching that brings me money. And then I have some investment income that I choose not to use. It gets reinvested back into those investments, but it's still an income stream. So if you don't know where to start with this, a practical step you can take is to pick one secondary income stream that you could add realistically in the next 90 days. Just one. Make it adjacent to the skills that you already have so that you're not starting from zero. Okay, number 2 on diversification is network. And I'm really thinking about this as like a crazy spider web and mind map of expanding and diversifying my network and my connections. Now, while relationships are harder to build, they are not something that will ever become automated. Skills can be replicated by AI reputation cannot. Trust cannot. I think it's really important to have at least 3 to 5 people within your direct or indirect professional circle that can vouch for you, that you could partner up with, that you can soundboard with, that you can get advice from, that you can share learnings with, that you can get other connections from. So right now I'm deliberately trying to expand my network, both in and outside of tech, as much as I possibly can. That means saying yes to conversations. That means saying yes to meetings that could lead to a job opportunity in the future. That means saying yes to someone who wants to meet with me for advice. It means reaching out to old colleagues that I've worked with and just checking in and seeing how they're doing. How are they navigating this change? How are they navigating the current time that we're in? How are their companies and their workplaces evolving with AI? Are there problems and pain points that they're seeing? And do we have maybe complementary skill sets that could one day result in a business? Whether it's people in tech, creators, people running small businesses, startup founders and CEOs, recruiters or HR folks as well. So a practical step to get started with this for you is once a month, reach out to one person or have one conversation with someone whose career looks completely different to yours. It could be a Zoom, it could be a coffee, it could even be a bit of a back and forth on LinkedIn. Try to make this a routine and a habit. And over the course of a year, you can end up with, between 12 to 20 new connections. Okay, the third thing I'm diversifying is knowledge. What am I consuming? What am I reading? Books, articles, who is writing the stuff that I'm reading? What am I consuming in terms of social media as well? I want to go deep on some topics, but I also want to go really broad. What are some topics that I would never think to learn about before? And what are some things I've always been curious about, but I've never had the time and opportunity to look into them? Now is the time. I used to do a lot of reading about tech and from tech CEOs, tech founders, female leaders in tech. And I've branched away from that so much. I'll put on screen some of the things that I'm currently consuming. And it's everything from how to navigate shifts in your life to literal career advice from someone who's left the tech industry, all the way to autobiographies of prime ministers, to learning about flow and the brain and how to put yourself into this creative state. Like, I'm going all out reading as much diverse content as I possibly can. And I'm doing this because I really believe in the dots connecting. You might read something that triggers an idea or a spark or a thought that you might then connect with something else. You might identify a gap. You might identify a really cool connection between things. You just don't know. And again, now is the time, because who knows what the world will look like in 5 years? Like, why not just lean into those things and make knowledge your power? Basically, I'm trying to consume things that are stretching my mind. They are introducing me to topics and concepts and ideas that I don't know anything about. So I've got to really process what it is that I'm reading. So my practical step for you here is to once a month pick a book or an article or however you like to consume, read something on a topic you know nothing about. And in fact, I would say read something on a topic that you think is boring, that you have absolutely no interest in. Just try it and just see what you learn from it, because there might be applications from that you could apply to something else that you are interested in. You just don't know, but give it a go. Let your mind stretch. Okay, and the fourth thing I'm diversifying is skills. Now, this is where I think at the moment there is a lot of focus on hard technical skills. People are learning how to use AI tools. They're learning how to vibe code and freaking vibe design, learning prompt engineering, all of those things that are new. And yes, we do need to stay literate on those hard skills. And I do think you should do that. However, I'm starting to more critically assess the other skills that I have that I actually think are going to be a unique advantage for me. Softer skills. I'm talking about things like judgment, communication, decision-making, my style, my taste, how to make a decision when I don't have all the information, how to convince someone of something, how to talk about something new that I just learned, how to sell an idea, how to critically give someone feedback about an idea that I don't think is good, so on and so forth. Basically, I think right now we are over optimizing for the hard skills, but we should really be going much harder on the soft skills, because those soft skills also compound no matter what role or job or profession or career path or business you take. Communication is always going to be relevant. Decision making, it's always going to be relevant. Selling, always relevant, but whether you're selling yourself or you're selling a product or a service or your business. So my homework for you on this step is to honestly audit your skills. Which skills are you weak in? Which ones are worth investing in? Which ones are going to be relevant in 10 years? I think most of us are just investing in the wrong column because we don't typically step back to critically assess our skills. Okay, so that's everything on the diversification front, but I have two more things to add to the inputs layer. One is finances and the other is investing. So first, on the finance front, I don't think you can truly future-proof a career that you don't financially understand. And so over the past year, I have gotten extremely deliberate and very disciplined about understanding my ins and outs, my savings and my investments. It's not an obsessive count every coffee kind of spreadsheet, but it's more of an informed and empowered way of knowing where money is going and how it's coming in at the moment. Knowing your numbers means also knowing your runway. It's also knowing what you would need if you needed to walk away from something. It's also knowing if you could or couldn't afford a decision that you might need to make to purchase or invest in something. Having that financial knowledge is freedom. And it's quite literally the difference between making a decision out of fear versus making a decision out of choice because you are informed. Doing this is also going to help you figure out what your monthly number is that you need should you decide to make a career change or a pivot or buy a business or build a career portfolio. You need to know what that minimum number is going to be, and you can only understand that if you know where everything is going. So your homework here is, by the end of this week, do your numbers and understand what your monthly burn is and what your runway in months is. And of course, make changes based on what you are learning about your finances. Cut costs and expenses if you want to. Invest in something if you want to. Understand that big picture and those two numbers to start with. By the way, I use this incredible spreadsheet that I got from Etsy, which I will link below if you're interested. It's the best budgeting spreadsheet I've ever used in my life, so I'll leave it below. And lastly, on the inputs layer, we have investing. There's a few things here. One is obviously investing in terms of financials. I am choosing to continue investing or dollar cost averaging into both shares and cryptocurrency. And I'm deciding to do that despite the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that might exist at the moment, especially in my industry, because I believe for the long term that is the best decision, and it's a way of diversifying myself. But I am also choosing to invest in myself, that is learning as much as I possibly can, investing in my health and my fitness, investing in the knowledge that I referred to earlier, and really thinking about what can I pour into myself to make myself the most well-rounded person and version of me that I could possibly be. And now we are onto the last layer, which I like to refer to as the outputs, and these are the possible paths that you could take once you've built your foundation, you're working on your inputs and they're coming in. What is it that you could now do? For me personally, I basically see 3 paths forward. And the whole point of this is to have optionality, right? It's not to pick a specific path, but it's to know that whatever path I wanted to go down at any point in time, I could do that. So path 1 is a career portfolio. This is the one I've already been building for several years. It's instead of one job, you stack lots of things that you do that bring you income in different ways. And you spend your time throughout the week in different ways as well. I've got a whole separate video on career portfolio, so you can go and watch that if you're interested in learning more. Path 2 is to buy a business. This is definitely having a moment. You would have heard a lot about buying boring businesses because of all the baby boomers who are retiring. It's something I'm looking into. Unsexy businesses that don't have a succession plan seem to be all up for grabs right now. So it is a viable path. And option 3 is to start a business. The highest risk, possibly the highest reward, but also a very long road. I know this is something I definitely want to do at some point in time. It's just a matter of what type of business and when. But with everything that I talked about in this video in terms of how I'm building myself to be very well-rounded, it is putting me in the best position possible to do this whenever I want to. I don't know right now which one I'm going to land upon. I'm definitely continuing to build out the career portfolio since I already have a strong base with that, and I'm exploring the other two, but most of my effort right now is going into building my input. I think I've done a lot of solid groundwork on the foundation layer already, and so my mindset is very in check, and so it's just continuing the momentum to build the inputs and diversify. And the point right now is not to know what path I might eventually choose. That's actually besides the point completely. Point is that all of the effort I'm putting into each one of those inputs could open doors with any one of those three paths. And that brings us to the end of how I'm future-proofing my career, my framework for actually going about this, and most importantly, how this is not about choosing your next step. It's about building flexibility, adaptability, and options so that you can be in the best position possible to do whatever it is that you want to do, no matter what the future state of the world, the economy, your career, or your industry might look like. I cannot stress how foundational your mindset is. If you choose to be fearful and to be scared, that is how it's going to play out for you. But if you choose to treat this as something that could give you a reset, that can help you embark on something that you've always wanted to do. And I must end with reminding you how important your mindset is. I believe those of us who look at this as, wow, what could I possibly do in this current time, are the ones who are going to look back in 5 to 10 years and say, yes, I'm so glad I did that, rather than being fearful, being unsure, and feeling stuck. By the way, for those of you who have been following me for some time, I guess this video marks the official turning point for my channel. I've spent years sharing product management and tech career advice and education, and it's something I will still keep doing where it's appropriate, but I'm expanding the topics on this channel to talk more holistically about careers, no matter if you're in tech or you're in another career, or who knows what it could be in 5 years. I think the world of careers is evolving in such an interesting way right now, and that's something that I'm personally navigating. I'm no longer investing a lot of my effort trying to build my tech career and become a better product manager, and I want to talk about the things that I'm currently doing, which is figuring out what the future of careers looks like, how to build a meaningful and purposeful career, and how to actually practically navigate some of these changes. So if that's something you're interested in, then follow along. Please like this video if it was valuable for you, or share it with someone who you think it will help. Thank you for watching if you got this far, and let me know in the comments if you are working on any of the inputs that I shared, if you are having any challenges with your mindset around the time that we're in, and maybe some of the paths that you are possibly considering. And with that, I will see you in my next video. Bye.